that's when the body begins to break down, because living in chronic stress for an extended period of time totally validates the idea that you're headed for some health condition, because no organism can live in emergency mode for an extended period of time. So as you begin to release all of these chemicals for some threat in your outer world, you diminish the energy in your inner world, and the immune system goes down. And so we wanted to see, by teaching people how to apply the formula, if they could actually strengthen their immune system. And in 4 days, just 4 days, people that look just like you, by changing their attitude, by changing and getting beyond pain, getting beyond fear, getting beyond resentment, and trading those survival emotions for elevated emotions, heart-centered emotions. The research says that you'll release 1,400 to 1,300 different chemicals when you open your heart that begin to restore and repair the body. But we wanted to see if common people that had just average people that live a normal life, you don't have to be a Buddhist monk, you don't have to be a yogi, you don't have to be an academic, you just have to understand the formula. And if you understand the formula, you should be the beneficiary of your own efforts. Are you with me still? So it begs the question then, when you're in an emotional reaction and you are putting all of your attention on the cause of it, the only person that's being affected by you living in that state, valid or not, justified or not, you are literally robbing your body of energy. Now, is there a problem with reacting? No. I react all the time. The question is, how long are you going to react for? Are you with me still? Now, those chemicals, those survival chemicals, if you read the research, says that they last for 90 seconds to 2 minutes, the release of those stress hormones. So if you're keeping it going past 2 minutes, more than likely you're faking it, or at least embellishing it. Their immunoglobulin levels went up 100%, but the average of everybody in the study, the 117 people that we studied, was 50% improvement across the board. How many people understand? So the worst thing that could happen to you if you're grateful for your life is you're going to heal. So then all of those health conditions, from food allergies to cancer to MS to rheumatoid arthritis to ALS, all of these different health conditions are immune-mediated conditions. And it is the hormones of stress, the long-term effects, that keep knocking the body out of balance. And that imbalance becomes the new balance, and the person's headed for disease. They're headed for some outcome. Are you with me still? And if you can turn on the stress response just by thought alone about thinking about your problems, and the hormones of stress push the genetic buttons that create disease, then people literally can get sick by their own thoughts. Their own thinking could make them sick. And we wanted to know if you were able to apply a formula, if your thoughts make you sick, is it possible that your thoughts make you well? I think that's a worthy study. Would you agree? Yeah. So then what we're saying is that the cause of the condition, the health condition, secondarily is whatever the person is experiencing based on their interaction with the environment. As an example, they may say, I have a sensitivity to bananas. I have a sensitivity to gluten. I have a sensitivity to white rice. I don't know. But the real cause of the condition is not the white rice. It's not the banana. It's their consistent emotional reaction to the environment that's actually beginning to downregulate a gene. And genes make proteins, and proteins are responsible for the structure and function of your body. And your body is a protein-producing machine, and the expression of those proper proteins is the expression of life. And the only way a cell can make a protein is if a gene is signaled. So genes make proteins, and genes are like Christmas tree lights. They're turning on and off all the time. When they switch on or they upregulate, they make a beautiful, healthy, structurally balanced, vibrant protein. That's an enzyme that's responsible for growing new tissue. It's responsible for creating the proper synovial fluid in your joints. When genes downregulate, they stop getting the proper information and the signal is interrupted and the cell starts to make a cheaper protein. And that protein doesn't have the solid structure, doesn't have the vibrancy, doesn't have the constitution that an upregulated protein has. And that protein then doesn't do its assignment as well. It's not repairing tissue as well. It's not producing the proper enzymes. And now the person is expressing less health. So the expression of life, the expression of health, is the expression of proteins in the body, and that's genes. And we used to say that genes create disease, but we now know it's the environment that signals the gene and creates disease. And yet, we have 140,000 different proteins that the body actually makes from gene expression. So if you do the math and you say, well, there should be a gene for every protein, we should have 140,000 different genes for 140,000 different proteins. Are you with me? Turns out we have 23,688 genes, and we have more proteins than we have genes. So what's the solution? Because on one gene sequence, you can have thousands of variations on that gene. So the question is, if the person is living by the same emotion every single day, and emotions are the end product of past experiences, and it's the environment that signals the gene, and if the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion, as long as the person is living by the same emotions, the same feelings every single day, they're signaling the same genes in the same way, and the body is objective. It doesn't care or know the difference between a real-life experience that's creating that fear, that's creating that guilt, that's creating that pain, creating that suffering, or the memory of it that's continuously creating the same emotion. The body believing it's in the same environmental conditions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And now the person is going to inherit some genetic condition that's on the surface that they got from their parents. But it's not the gene that's creating the disease. It's the signal that's creating the disease, their emotional reaction to the conditions in their environment. And if they don't change, then they're headed for that particular future. Because if you keep signaling the same gene over and over again, it's like taking a copy of a copy of a copy. All of a sudden, you start down-regulating those genes, and that's a cheaper protein. And all aging is a result of improper protein production. So then if you're thinking the same way every single day, you're making the same choices, you're demonstrating the same behaviors, you're creating the same exact experiences that stamp the same networks into the same patterns, all for the familiar feeling called you, and you do that consistently every single day for years on end, there's no new information coming from the environment. And that person's biology, their neurocircuitry, their neurochemistry, their hormones, even their gene expression is equal to how they think, how they act, and how they feel. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality is intimately connected with your personal reality. Which means then, if you want to create a new life, create a new personal reality, you have to change your personality. And because of the size of the frontal lobe, we can think about what we've been thinking about and change it. That means we could modify our actions, make new decisions, do things differently. And when we do, we have new experiences. And those new experiences signal experience-dependent genes. And the new behaviors signal behavior-dependent genes. And those genes are on the surface, and they can be passed on right to the next generation. That's information in the gene that's being expressed as evolution. Are you with me still? Come on. So then if a person's living by the same old feelings, and those same feelings are influencing their same thoughts, then they're thinking in the past. Because familiar emotions are a record of the past. And most people wake up every single morning and the first thing they do is they start thinking about their problems. And those problems are memories that are etched in the brain. And those memories are connected to certain people and problems and certain things and objects and certain times and places. And the moment you begin to wake up in the morning and think about your problems, you're thinking in the past, because they are memories from the past. And if you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, then your past is going to be your future. Now, every one of those conditions, every one of those problems has an emotion associated with it. When a person starts to feel unhappy, when they start to feel fear, when they start to feel anxiety, when they start to feel deflated, now their body's in the past, because thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body, and how we think and how we feel creates our state of being. So most people then start their day with their entire state of being in the familiar past, and that's the known. And if you live in the familiar past, then the body being conditioned to be the mind. In other words, when you wake up in the morning and you don't feel anything, then you search for the familiar feeling called you, and you say, let me think of my problems. Then all of a sudden you say, I'm broke, I'm in lack, I hate my life. Now you feel just like you do all the time. Are you with me still? And those emotions keep influencing thoughts equal to those emotions. The energy is influencing a level of mind. Are you with me still? And then we turn on certain circuits in the brain. When we signal those particular circuits, another part of the brain makes a chemical and we feel more unhappy. The brain checks in with the body and says, yeah, you're miserable. And then you generate more thoughts, firing and wiring the same circuits in the same way, consistently producing the same chemistry in the body. And conditioning only requires an image, a symbol, and an emotion. And people condition their body emotionally into the past. And we can't create a new future holding on to the emotions of the past. In fact, if you can't think greater than how you feel, or feelings have become the means of thinking, you are literally thinking in the past. And your yesterday is going to look a lot like your tomorrow.